Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name, of course, is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so they can take on more website projects and scale profitably. And today I am joined by another legend. The Vince Reed from SetUpMyAds is in the house. What's up, Vince?
What's going on, man?
It's great
Good
to have
to
you on.
catch up again, dude.
I know,
How
I
are you?
know. I'm always commenting on your Instagram posts.
I've been trying to be more active on the story game, trying to get my
No,
story game up.
it's good, man. I love seeing the boxing ones too. You were doing some mitt work today, some
Yeah,
pads. That's pretty cool.
it's fun. I
Are
love
you,
boxing. It's probably my
are
second.
you, I mean, have you ever competed?
I
Like I know you
have.
play
I've
football.
had four
Wow.
fights. Yeah,
What's
amateur smoker fights, not professional fights, but yeah.
what's the weight category that you were in?
What's funny is the ones that I do are kind of like gym versus gym. So they give you
Okay.
a weight class, but I've always fought guys we don't weigh in or anything. They just kind of they'll be like, hey, you should be in between, 185 and 200. But I've fought guys up to 220, 225.
That's a big difference,
Yeah,
man. That 20 pounds is
yeah,
massive.
it is, it is.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show. And like I was telling you earlier, we start off every episode with what we call a roundtable discussion. And I want to talk about a very sensitive topic that's very relevant to what's going on in the world today. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because you have been, and I've told you this before, you have been an inspiration to me as a minority entrepreneur and specifically in the digital marketing space. And so, I just want to kind of get your take on this, all the racial tension that's going on in the world, specifically in the United States, what that means to our industry, as well as, what that means to our country, because every week it's something new, like this week, it's more like the COVID. 2 weeks ago, it's all the protesting and Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. So, you know, let me ask you this question first. What has been the motivation for you to want to be more vocal about some of the challenges that minorities and specifically Black Americans face in the United States?
It's funny. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle because my wife's a nurse,
Yeah.
so she works part-time and Wednesdays and every other weekend, and every time she comes home I can just see her tension rising because her perception of what's happening is different from like what you see on the news.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Like, one of the things that she tells me is that everyone's like, well, in the beginning, now the death rates are, you're starting to see how deadly this thing could be. But it's just the flu, people are not dying. But what they
Yeah.
don't tell you is that people stay sick very, like, a long time, like they're not getting better fast.
Yeah.
And even when they send you home, there's lingering effects that are causing people to not be able to work, and the job is scared to have you back, so that you could potentially lose your job. And there's like all these other issues that are even that are harder to understand outside of just being sick and dying.
Yeah.
So I hear this all the time. But anyhow, from the racial tension part, I don't really go out after it like, I'm going to be vocal, I'm going to say this or
Yeah.
that. I just try to, be some type of voice of reason, because I feel like it's very easy to allow this thing to consume you.
Yes.
You can get caught up in the news. You can get caught up in, you go on social media, man, and it's like toxic. It hurt. It literally is painful sometimes when I go on. And also what's sad about it, and this is what bothers me the most, is I have so many friends on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get caught up in it so much to where someone that you respect says something, and it literally can just shatter your entire perception of what you thought off
And the
one
friendship
and a
too.
friendship. And I'm like, why is it that bad? So I just had a detox, man, and just kind of get out for a while. But I will tell you something interesting. I made a post. It was the first time I shared a story about my dad. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
saw it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I did.
and
I remember.
I'm not going to get that detailed into it, but it went like baby viral. I wouldn't say it was a viral post, but it went baby viral, hundreds of shares, and reached, tens of thousands of people. And it was great. I mean, a lot of great feedback, and it was really cool to see people on both sides experiencing what my dad experienced, which was, I believe, for the first time in his life, seeing people of all different types of races come together. And I shared this story of how, I live in a predominantly white area, and he went down the street and there was this Black Lives Matter, protest going on, and they just embraced him. And he was literally one of the only Black people there. So I shared this story. But anyhow, it went viral, and I haven't ever shared this, but 2 days later I go on Facebook and I get this thing that pops up, and it's like, your Facebook profile is disabled. And I was actually setting up an ad. I'm like, do one of my ads I'm like, but it said it said Facebook has disabled your account. It didn't say like your ad was banned or disapproved. And then I keep trying to get on Facebook, and literally it's just not letting me on. Like, I can't get on. It's taking me back to this page. I had to do this appeal, send in a copy of my ID. And I was off of Facebook for like 72 hours, not knowing what was going on. I was having my team going to our business manager. I'm seeing ads get approved, but I can't get in. And they wanted to see who I was. I mean, Congress is from what happened last time, they're like, who's making these viral posts? Is this guy set up by someone to do this false story?
Yeah.
They research it. The next thing I know, 3 days later, I go in, it's fine.
Interesting.
So it's really interesting, man. Like, the whole dynamics of social media, how much it controls you, not necessarily from a message, but just just having your business. Literally, I couldn't do anything had it not been for account managers and other people that had access.
Yeah.
I mean, what if I was running a $2,000 a day budget and couldn't get in there? I literally couldn't even get onto the business manager to stop it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It was crazy.
Do you know what was it about the post, or something that, maybe somebody flagged you?
Yeah, I think it was a positive post.
Yeah.
And I went back, and it was funny because you could go on YouTube and someone could be telling a story about Jesus and it could have a bunch of dislikes. But anyhow, it had like 6 people who hit it or whatever. So I'm assuming someone probably, reported it or whatever. But that's the only thing I can think of that would have caused that to happen, because it literally was, I'm telling you, you've never seen anything like this. Imagine just being on Facebook and this big box pops up and it says disabled. And I'm like, and I'm setting up ads. I mean, most of the time I'm only in Facebook to set up ads. I don't really spend too much time in the newsfeed. But anyhow.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I love the things that you've posted about this. And like I said, I definitely have looked up to you because, you've always been somebody who, you are very good at running ads, and you're a very talented digital marketer, but I just respect you because I feel like there's more to the mission than just running ads. Like when you talk about the stories of you struggling with the mortgage and just, the other stories of you growing up. And so I just want to applaud you for using your platform to talk about things that are honestly more important than digital marketing. So absolutely. I appreciate that. And then on the flip side, it's really interesting when you look at somebody like Russell Brunson, who I think you mentioned, and he tried to do something to reach out and he just got like lit on fire, And so I can understand how frustrating it can be for white people specifically who are trying to bridge the gap and trying to do something good. And then they just get dismantled for it, So it's tough, man. It's a tough.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody knows what to do.
I had to reach out to Russell. We talked about it because I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
We have to be really careful, specifically, Black people, African Americans, whatever you want to say it to, whatever is the right way you want to say it. You have to be careful to not set a trigger for people who want to help. Right? So when you have people that want to help and they don't help the way that you want them to help and you beat them up for it. I mean, he was called everything from white privilege to just all kind of names. And I've known him for over a decade and he's been nothing but amazing to me and my family. So I always worry about just creating a trigger that actually turns a person that was trying to help to then change their perspective and say, well, maybe people are right about these people. Maybe they just blah, 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 blah. We have to be extremely careful and be very clear about what our end objective is for what we want and what we expect. But more importantly, we can't expect people to do things in the way that you would do it. Okay, in the way
Yeah.
that you would want it to be done. They can only help in the way that they know how. And I think that's a level of perception that we have to have as entrepreneurs, as human beings in general.
So I love that you are so kind of like open-minded, and I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful as an entrepreneur. So let's shift gears and let's talk about set up my ads. Just give us the really quick 1-minute version of how you got into this business.
Lost everything, went on the internet trying to find a way to just help put food on the table.
Yeah.
Girlfriend at the time, now my wife, was working 6 days, night shifts, 12-hour shifts to support me. And I was in real estate. It collapsed, and went online, how to make money online. Saw an ad that said make money on Google, and it just sparked everything. I mean, when I started researching and seeing these ads pop up, it was really interesting. I immediately said to myself, this is crazy. I can't believe that I can put money into Google and dictate what an individual sees when they're in the act of searching for something specific.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I'm fascinated by it. And I just dove headfirst into it, man, and just day after day, just grinded it out, and here I am
What
today.
was like the point where you're like, man, I'm onto something. Like I'm getting really good at this. Like this could turn into a real business. What was like that point where you had a moment of inspiration, or several points?
Well, I'll be honest. For me, I always try to sell myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm running ads, I try to this is what I truly believe is my skill set that I believe sets me apart. If you were to say what's the secret sauce to what's made you successful, I would say actually there's 2 things. Number one, I actually do what I teach. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I'm selling how to go run an ad because I bought a course. My main company is a lead broker. I run traffic and generate leads on a pay-per-lead basis for some of the biggest companies out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd live it every day as my main business, and I teach what I do for fun because I want to give back, because I was the struggling person that wanted someone to help me. And again, I always think back to when I saw it. I'm like, wow, like look at these ads. I could do that. I remember that day like yesterday. So I always want to give that back. And it's frustrating when you're trying to help people, but there's so many gurus out there, and how is a person doesn't know you able to distinguish if you're real or not, right?
Yeah.
So that's tough. But the other part for me, when I say what I do is try to like sell myself, what would I have to see in order to believe it? So one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I would do back when I got started online, by the way, there was no social media ads. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I remember when Facebook ads first came out, and I was one of the first to run ads back then.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I would run an ad to get a person on a phone call to sell them some kind of product or whatever. And when I would get the lead, and before our scheduled call, so think about like us getting on this call right now.
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes before we got on this call, imagine if I went into Google, set up an ad with the keyword your name, and basically, um, you know, it says Chris's secrets to building agencies or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then we get on the phone and I go search your name in Google.
And then they see it.
And they go search it, and their ad would be right there, first thing on the top. And I just be like, I want to show you how to do that. Right.
Nice,
And
dude. That's
I mean,
awesome.
that's how I got my start. I literally would have calls booked, set up an ad for them within 10 minutes, and I would just delete the ad when I got off the call. And then we have 10 minutes, go set it up. And Google was that quick at getting your ad on that keyword.
Wow. That's
And I'm
awesome,
sure
man.
you could still do it, but for them, that's what I would have needed to see what I was trying to get them to understand of they have the power to do for people. And
Yeah,
at that
dude.
point,
That's definitely a superpower. I think that's one of the reasons why I suck at running ads. I cannot I can't put myself in the mind space of somebody else who's looking at an ad. I
right.
don't have that ability. And so that's why I always have other people run my ads for me. So when you were doing that, like how many clients were you managing at a time, before
I
you
mean,
realized you had to bring on some other help and that sort of thing? What was like the
it
growth
was
pattern?
funny. Back then, I was actually selling business opportunities, but I
Okay.
never sold the business opportunity. I just basically said that you don't ever have to talk to friends and family, because I'm going to show you how to do this. Go search your name. So just like the people I was talking to, they were looking for ways to make money. It was never about the thing. It was about a real process, so it felt like a job. One of the reasons people aren't very good at business opportunities is because it's like when you go to a job, you have training, typically like a couple week training, and then they teach you what to do, and then every 2 weeks you get a paycheck. With most business opportunities, whatever you're selling, it could be affiliate marketing, it could even be digital agency. Everybody's running it differently. This guy's doing ads on Facebook. This guy's doing YouTube. This guy's going, beating on doors. This guy, it's always different. So what I did was I created a system, and I just showed them that all they have to do is implement this system, and I'll show you this system, but here's what we're selling. It didn't even matter what we were selling. It was they had a system to sell it. And the way that I always teach people is it really doesn't matter what you're selling, because what people ultimately want, especially in that space, is they just want to make more money. So I could be selling this pin, and if I were to say, you want to get in the pin business, you'd be like, heck no, I don't want to get in the pin business. But then if I were to say, listen, man, there's, tens of thousands of companies that start up every single month, big companies, and they order pins like this in the thousands. And I know how to put ads in front of the manufacturers where they go to order those pins, and all we have to do is put it in front of it. Do you want to be in the pin business? How much it's different, right? You may not join, but it's definitely more intriguing than being in the pin business.
Yeah.
Right. So I realized that, and that's what I mean, just realizing ultimately what people want is a proven step-by-step plan.
Absolutely. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig either.
Right.
Okay. So now, you're running SetUpMyAds. I know you were telling me earlier that you kind of like retooled it and it's relaunching again. So tell us about what SetUpMyAds is and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, man. Gosh, what a crazy transition. SetUpMyAds it's one of those things where I'm excited, but I'm also embarrassed by it, if that makes sense.
Okay,
and the reason I'm embarrassed by it is because I'm embarrassed more so by my actions over the years. And it's really because it's been a hard road to figure out who we are as a company.
Yep.
I mean, we launched a year and a half ago, or probably 2 years ago now. And when we originally launched, we were just going to be a company that would just help set up your ad, literally what we're called. So you want an ad set up, we set it up. We don't manage your ads. We don't do anything. We just set it up, then you manage it. We're done. Don't talk to us. That was great. We got flooded with business. But the problem was after we would set up people's ads, they had questions. How much do I spend? This ad didn't work. The lead cost too high. I want to and there was refunds. It wasn't that it was bad. They just didn't know. So like, man, great idea, bad execution. So then we were like, okay, well, instead of just setting up anybody's ads, what if this is when we spoke the last time, what if we just help agencies fulfill on the demand? And that was cool because, we're like, okay, they already have the client. All we have to do is set up the ad and they can manage it. Then we ran into the exact same thing. We were like, it'd be easier for us to just get our own clients because they had terrible onboarding process, communicating what we needed to do for the client. It was a huge gap in between. So we scratched that. So over the last year, we've done extremely well. We changed it into more of a done with you model, where it was high ticket, where people could pay, and we would work with business owners and agencies, and we would just help them learn how to optimize ad performance. So how to, advertise on multiple platforms. My real skill set, if you're like, it's not just digital marketing. What I truly believe at this point in my career, what I feel like I'm the best in the world at is helping business owners who are advertising generate the highest caliber lead, highest quality lead at the lowest cost possible with the greatest return. So, and also not being platform dependent, because I run ads on multiple platforms. So we were helping these businesses with that. And that was great as well. But the problem was, we were charging, it was a one-time setup fee. It was $5,000. You pay $5,000, we work with you for life. And obviously that's difficult to run a company like that, because as you want to bring in more people to help, granted it's great cash flow, but even if, let's say I have a $200,000-$300,000 a month, bringing on more people, you're dependent on making sales the next month because you can't allocate a certain amount to another person. It's just very uncomfortable. Even though you could be sitting on cash, the moves you make. So we're like, we need to turn this into a real company. So literally today, we just kind of launched a new version where, just to simplify, I know it went way longer than you said.
No, this is good.
Front end product, and then SetUpMyAds, which used to be one time, is now a continuity model.
Yep.
Where we work with the business, they pay monthly, and it's the same thing. It's just a continuity model, but we don't just sell them right into that. We kind of give them the product that teaches some of our core principles. And then if they want to kind of join SetUpMyAds, which our core program is called Systemize, It's now on a continuity model where they can pay monthly. And we're there to help them every week. We've got coaches that they can jump on calls. They get
Mm-hmm.
me every month. And we also have the done for you service for them once they're a member. So if you're a member, we were able to work with you. And we actually encourage them. We're like, hey, you don't need to pay us to help set up your ads. We'll show you how to do it. You
Yeah.
set it up, and then we'll just jump on the call. We'll help you optimize it. But if you want to pay us to set it up, we'll do that too. But that's only available to those members. So
Great.
that's kind of where we are today.
I love it, man. And like there's so many points that you were making there that I want to make sure that everybody understands. First of all, it's that no matter how good you are, sometimes things just don't work out the exact way that you planned, right? And you have to pivot and adjust. And your ability to adapt to whatever is going on is really, in my opinion, one of the things that's going to make the difference between you winning or losing. And we look at the current situation right now, so in March, shit hits the fan, COVID shuts down everything, agencies all over the place go down, companies, they go out of business overnight, or, some of them just put their head in the sand. They say, let's just hope that this thing goes away. And so like, it's the ones who really grab the bull by the horns and they were just like, you know what, I don't care what happens, but I'm going to find a way. I'm going to make it through. Those are the ones who are doing really well. And then now, in my opinion, we're on the verge of having another shutdown within the next 4 to 6 weeks. I am very heavily invested in the belief that stuff's going to go back down again.
Happen.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Definitely going to happen.
Okay, perfect. Another person vouching for me. So, and it's going to be another turning point where the people who are able to adapt and adjust and, figure it out, those are the ones who are going to survive. Everybody else is just going to go away. So that is a really, really important point, because oftentimes we look at somebody like you and we think, well, they always have the answers. They never have any missteps. They never make any mistakes. And that's BS. It's but the difference is that you are able to adjust as needed and adjust quickly.
I'll tell you something on that. I was going to post a video about what you just said yesterday.
Yeah.
We actually make, at least I can speak for myself, I probably make a lot more mistakes than a person who hasn't got started. But but what's happened is, because of what you said and being consistent on what is truly the power of lead generation on list building is what always saves me. So it's like they say with Babe Ruth. I think he has the record for strikeouts, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I consider, like, I've been generating leads. I've generated over 500,000 leads over my career, right? And I'm constantly scrubbing them. If they're not opening it, I mean, it's probably way more than that. I'm constantly scrubbing my list. I can always position myself to make money. And that's just by, always being focused on one thing: marketing, lead generation, and getting good at that skill set. So I know everybody that's on my list, they've got an issue with marketing or lead generation. So I can always figure out a way to pivot. So what I think I've learned through the years is to listen. Like, what you offer can't be what you think. It has to be what your audience wants and what they need. And I think that's the difference of what we've got now with kind of what we've done. Before, it was like, I would have loved for someone, when I got started, to set up my ad.
Yeah.
And then, you start thinking about it, like, man, you missed a lot of stuff because you didn't go talk to someone. If I would have probably called you and said, hey, I just want to set up your ad, then I'm sure you may have said, well, Vince, what if I have a question?
Yeah.
Maybe I should have some kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I just jumped too quick, but it's a lesson that you have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to be the student. And I think one of the kind of like dichotomies of becoming successful or being good at what you do is that you start to believe your own bullshit. You start to think, oh, I'm so good. What can I learn from this person? And that's when you need somebody around you who is going to smack you in the face and be like, dude, no, that's the person that you need to listen to. I don't care what they might've done, but that person's on to something right now.
Absolutely.
Just always putting yourself in a position so that you're learning.
Better.
Yeah. That you're always getting better. Cool. Well, so we only have a few minutes left, but there's one really important question that I want to ask you, because you mentor people, you get to see what's working on the lead gen space. What are some of the things that differentiate the very successful people in specifically like the lead gen space to those that just never break 6 figures?
Okay, so 2 things. Number one, as a lead generation, quote unquote, expert, right?
Yeah.
The natural thing that most people that get into my space do is they go, wow, I learned this cool thing. I can generate leads online. Clearly, I can go target people that want to learn how to do this and teach them how to do it. then the next logical step is I can go out there and target business owners who have products and services and teach them to run ads online. But ultimately, to be honest with you, those are actually the worst of the people you should target first. And the reason why is there's so many, it doesn't mean you can't help them, but there's so many things that they have to learn. They got to learn copy. They got to learn paid. They got to learn compliance. They got to learn their message. What are they selling? There's all these things. When ideally, my sweet spot is targeting online advertisers. People already advertising online. They already have all that. I just got to help them cut their lead costs in half and boost conversions. They're closer to the finish line. So for example, let's say that you are a successful person in the e-commerce space and your business is helping people start Shopify stores and make money. Let's say that's your business. Well, what's logical? Well, let's go teach people how to make money online. You could have a Shopify store. You can make money way over here. Okay, well, let's go to the next step. Let's get people who have heard about e-commerce and Shopify and Amazon. Let's teach them how to, but they don't have a store yet. They don't even have a product. So where you should actually start is the person that has a store, has found a product, and how do you get them? Because they're closer to the finish line. You're gonna have closer lead, you're gonna have lower lead costs, you're gonna have better conversions, and then you work yourself down. But you can explain what I just explained to the new person so they know they're gonna have a road to get to the 7-figure store. But the problem is they portray it as everybody can have a 7-figure store and they wonder why it's up and down because their message and who they should be targeting is off. That's truly the secret to success online, is really figuring out who's the closest to getting the end result that can move the needle. So for example, let me ask you, if I came into your business right now, whoever's running your ads, and I could help you cut your lead costs in half and boost your conversions, would you want me to go in there and help you do that?
Absolutely.
Or do you want me to help you run ads on the internet?
No, the first one.
Exactly. You see what I mean? Right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
That's the difference in why it's still the same thing. I'm still going to show you how to run better ads on the internet by cutting your lead, but it's very specific to the desired outcome that you and I both know can move the needle for your business.
Yeah.
That little distinction is why most people fail. You can look at it in their copy. You can look at it in what they talk. They just don't see that because they're saying what's obvious and what's logical, but it's not going to help your business get to that next level.
Do you think, this is kind of a follow-up question to that, do you think that entrepreneurs who are successful in this space, do you think that they can be made, or do you think that they're born?
Wow, I don't think I've ever been asked that question.
Breaking news right here.
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't a born entrepreneur.
You were not?
No. My dad was a 9-to-5, grinded out. I always thought I was going to be, in fact, if you look at my blog that I released this week, I talk about when I first realized I should be an entrepreneur was because I saw another guy who worked with me become an entrepreneur. And he left a warm and fuzzy job that we worked at in the mortgage industry to go start his own. And I went with him and I watched him work every day. And I'm like, man, maybe there's something to it. I always thought I was just going to work my way up. I never had that. So in that sense, you can be made. But I think that the drive and determination is born. Or maybe not born, but has to be bred in you early. If you've ever read my book, I talk about the stories my dad would tell me every single day, and just the work ethic and the mindset that you have to be successful in anything. Mm-hmm. You've got to have your mindset is the number one thing you need to strengthen if you're going to be successful. Because just like I just told you, most people would have quit. They would have quit after the first time I started the company, right?
Right.
But you have to have this. You have to have this mindset, and you also have to put yourself in position to what you're comparing yourself against. I said this in my last week's talk. Like, for example, I would pay money to have most people's problems.
Meaning what?
Well, most people that complain, oh, my business isn't working or this and that. It's like, dude, that ain't even a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the successful entrepreneurs, they're just better at fixing and solving more problems than the average person.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anything to compare it to, then you think that your problem was like a boulder on you, but in reality, it was a pebble.
Right.
So you would have just seen, like, if you came and worked with me and you see all the things I'm juggling and how I work every single day, you'd be like, you'd believe it's possible, but you'd also know you have to put your butt in gear because there's some serious work. So a lot of the problems, it's a false belief of what you think needs to be done. And I'm not saying, Gary V, you got to hustle and this and that. It's just a different level of work ethic and strategic, execution that the top people have. Whereas the average person, they just, they'll cave so easy. The littlest thing just throws them off.
Yeah.
And I can see it, and I just go, man, you don't have. I can tell you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. I've talked about this before, but I don't think you've ever heard it before. One time I went to this survival seminar. So there's this dude, he was a former Green Beret, just like badass motherfucker guy. And so he's retired from the military and he has a very successful podcast. And so he was doing this talk and he's going to talk about like survival stuff. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I'll go. I'll pay the $25. So I show up. And the whole thing was him basically talking about his war stories and stuff. And the people in the room, it was really interesting because you would think that it would be all former military people. There was like 100 people in the room. There was maybe 2 former military people in the room. Really, really interesting, his audience. So anyways, the one thing that I got out of the talk was he said that in an emergency situation where, bombs are going off and like it's life or death, he said there's 10% of the population that for whatever reason, their brains cannot handle the stress and they die almost instantly. Those are the people that if it's a burning building, they actually run into the burning building and they die instantly. He said 80% of the population will, they have a 50-50 chance of survival. If the situation goes their way, they're going to make it. If it doesn't, they're not going to make it, right? It's very just kind of like a coin flip. Then there's the 10% of the population that no matter what happens, those people are going to find their way to survive. He's like, those are like, that's the warrior mentality that no matter what happens, they're just going to make it. So going back to the question that I asked you about whether it's born or whether, it can be bred, by his definition, it seems like a lot of that being in the top 10% is, it's just a part of who you are. But, I'm sure that you can do a lot of things to up your chances or increase your chances of being in that top 10% too. So there's no right or wrong answer, man. It's just kind of like whatever you think.
I think it's who you are, but I think you have to have a little bit of instinct. Like it has to be bred in you a little bit. Like you have to,
Yeah.
I believe. I don't know if you could just, I mean, I guess it's a chance for anybody, but I don't know if I didn't move with my dad at a young age.
Right.
If I would have had the same. I know, like I said, the stories were I was brainwashed by him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every day it was this, in a good way. It was the same stories of like, work ethic and are you a leader? Are you a follower? And what happens? What happens when this guy tries to call you a punk and a wimp because you don't want to do drugs? What are you going to do? Like, it was like, I remember in the backseat going home from, I'm not going to do it. Like mad, like I'm not like, and then when those situations happened, boom.
It's stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I do the same with my daughter. She does the same thing to me and I laugh.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it, man. All right. Well, we're out of time. So what's the best way for people to get in contact with you, Vince?
Vince Reed live on social media, anywhere, or you can just go to SetUpMyAds.com if you need any help with marketing or lead generation.
And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
Anyone advertising online. So if you're investing, I would say if you're spending at least $1,500 a month, you'd probably be ideal. Ideal is $1,000 a day is ideal, but you need to be spending at least $1,500 a month, which is only $50 a day.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And I have some friends in your program and they speak very, very highly of you, as do I. So definitely check them out. So thanks a lot, Vince, for being on the show. To all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in today, and make sure that you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Bye, guys.
Thank you.